I, 28F, have a port wine stain birthmark that covers about half of my face. I've had it since birth, obviously, and while I was insecure about it as a teenager, I've grown to accept it as part of who I am. I don't try to hide it anymore, and honestly, most people in my life don't even notice it after knowing me for a while. My sister Ellie, 31F, has always been the perfect one in our family. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect fiancé named Mark, 32M, who comes from money. They've been planning their wedding for nearly 2 years, and it's been the only topic of conversation at every family gathering. $75,000 budget, country club venue, designer dress, the works. Last month, Ellie asked me to be her maid of honor. I was surprised since we've never been particularly close. Growing up, she was always focused on her achievements while I dealt with bullying because of my birthmark. We drifted further apart in adulthood, with only obligatory holiday gatherings keeping us in touch. Still, I accepted the maid of honor role because I thought maybe this was her way of trying to build a better relationship. Boy, was I wrong. Everything was fine until the wedding prep brunch 3 weeks ago. Ellie had arranged for all the bridesmaids to meet with her makeup artist to discuss the look for the wedding. When it was my turn, the makeup artist started talking about heavy-duty coverage foundations and color correctors. I don't usually wear foundation, I said. Maybe just some light coverage? Ellie jumped in immediately. No, Sophia needs full coverage. The works, whatever it takes. I felt my stomach drop. Are you talking about covering my birthmark completely? Well, obviously, Ellie said with an uncomfortable laugh. We can't have it in all the photos. The table went silent. I felt like I'd been slapped. I don't cover my birthmark for anyone, I told her. You know that. Ellie rolled her eyes. It's my wedding day, Sophia. Everything needs to be perfect. Just do this one thing for me. I stayed calm and told her I wouldn't be covering my birthmark, but that I'd be happy to wear whatever makeup she wanted otherwise. She seemed to drop it, but I could tell she was fuming. Later that night, she sent me a novel-length text about how I was being selfish and making her day about me. She said that wedding photos are forever and that I was ruining her aesthetic. She even attached examples of makeup that could cover my birthmark completely, saying, "See, you'll look normal for once." That normal comment broke something in me. I called her instead of texting back, hoping to have an adult conversation. Big mistake. She went on a 20-minute rant about how I was jealous of her and always trying to steal attention. According to her, my birthmark would distract from her as the bride because people would be looking at me instead of her in photos. I told her I wouldn't be covering my birthmark, but offered to step down as maid of honor if it was that important to her. She said no, that would look bad to the family, and hung up on me. The next day, my mom called. Apparently, Ellie had told her a completely twisted version of our conversation, claiming I'd refused to wear any makeup at all and wanted to make a statement at her wedding. My mom begged me to just do this one thing for your sister and said I was being difficult on purpose. I tried explaining my side, but Mom kept saying, "It's just makeup, Sophia. It's just for one day." But it's not just makeup to me. My birthmark isn't a flaw to be covered up for someone else's comfort or aesthetic. I've spent years learning to accept myself, and I wasn't about to let Ellie undo all that work because she wanted perfect photos. The week before the wedding, things escalated. Ellie added me to a group chat with the makeup artist and her wedding planner. They were discussing how early I'd need to arrive for extra time in the makeup chair. I responded that I'd already made my position clear about my birthmark. Ellie called me immediately, crying and screaming that I was ruining everything. She said if I wouldn't cover my birthmark, I shouldn't come to the wedding at all. Then she hung up. 10 minutes later, Mark called me. He was surprisingly calm and asked if we could meet for coffee the next day to sort this out. I agreed. When we met, Mark started by apologizing for Ellie's behavior, which shocked me. He said she'd been difficult with everyone and that wedding stress had turned her into someone he barely recognized. Then he slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" I asked. "Ellie wanted me to give you this. It's a check to cover professional makeup for the wedding." I opened the envelope. It was a check for $1,000. She's willing to pay me to cover my birthmark? Mark looked uncomfortable. She just wants a perfect day. I slid the check back. My face isn't a problem to be solved with money. He told me he thought this whole thing was ridiculous and that he'd told Ellie that, but she convinced herself that my birthmark would somehow ruin the photos. He asked if I couldn't just do this for her, for family peace. "Would you ask me to change my race for a day if it didn't match her color scheme?" I asked. "My birthmark is part of me. I'm not covering it." He left looking defeated, and I thought that might be the end of my involvement in the wedding. But the next day, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. They'd brought my grandma along, knowing I have a soft spot for her. For 2 hours, they tried to convince me to compromise. My dad suggested I could cover my birthmark for the ceremony and photos, then wash it off for the reception. Mom kept saying I was being stubborn. Grandma mostly stayed quiet until the end, when she squeezed my hand and said, "You should be yourself, dear. Always." That made my mom furious. She started crying about how I was tearing the family apart over just some makeup. I told them all to leave. As they were going, my dad said I needed to fix this before the wedding. I spent the next few days thinking about what to do. Part of me wanted to just skip the wedding entirely, but another part felt like that would be letting Ellie win. Why should I miss a family event because she's ashamed of how I look? 2 days before the wedding, I got a text from Ellie saying the makeup artist would be at her house at 7 a.m. and that I needed to be the first one there, so there's enough time. She was acting like our fight had never happened and that I'd agreed to cover my birthmark. I replied, "I'll be there at 9 a.m. like we originally planned. I'm not covering my birthmark. If that's a problem, I understand if you want to find another maid of honor." She didn't respond. The morning of the wedding arrived, and I showed up at 9 a.m. as I'd said I would. The house was chaos, bridesmaids running around, Ellie's mom-in-law criticizing the flower arrangements, the wedding planner on the phone arguing with someone. Ellie was in her room getting her hair done. When I walked in, she took one look at me and burst into tears. "You're not even wearing makeup yet. The artist left an hour ago. I told you I'd be here at 9, and I brought my own makeup." She started screaming about how I was ruining her wedding and how everyone would be looking at me instead of her. The hairstylist looked mortified and excused herself. Ellie's mom came in and immediately started berating me too. "We can still fix this," she said, digging through her makeup bag. "I have some heavy foundation that might work." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not covering my birthmark. I never agreed to that." Ellie threw a hairbrush across the room. "Then get out. You're not going to ruin my photos." "Fine," I said, and left the room. I was gathering my things to leave when Mark's sister Jen, 29F, stopped me. We'd gotten along well during the few pre-wedding events. "Don't go," she said. Ellie's being a bridezilla to everyone. Yesterday, she made one of the bridesmaids cry because her highlights were too brassy and would clash with the flowers. I hesitated. She doesn't want me there. Screw what she wants. Your family. And honestly, if you leave, she wins. So I stayed. I did my own makeup, just some mascara, blush, and lip gloss, and put on my bridesmaid dress. Jen helped me with my hair, and we joined the other bridesmaids, who were all walking on eggshells around Ellie. When it was time for pre-ceremony photos, Ellie took one look at me and pulled the photographer aside. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but she kept pointing at me and making angry gestures. The photographer nodded a lot, and then came over to set up the group shot. And here's where it gets interesting. For every group photo, I was positioned way in the back, partially hidden behind taller bridesmaids. For some shots, the photographer accidentally cut me half out of the frame. It was so obvious what was happening that even the other bridesmaids were exchanging uncomfortable glances. During the ceremony, I was placed at the far end of the line, despite being the maid of honor who should have been closest to Ellie. At the reception, I was seated at a table far from the main wedding party, with some distant relatives who didn't even know I was in the bridal party. I kept my head high and refused to let it ruin my night. I danced, I chatted with relatives, I had a few drinks. I even gave my maid of honor speech, which I'd prepared weeks before all this drama. I kept it brief but sincere, focusing on wishing them happiness and sharing a few neutral childhood memories that wouldn't come off as fake to those who knew our actual relationship. After the speech, Ellie's new mother-in-law came up to me. "That was lovely, dear. And may I say, your birthmark is beautiful. It looks like a watercolor painting." I nearly cried on the spot. No one had ever called my birthmark beautiful before. The night went on, and I actually started enjoying myself once I accepted that Ellie was going to pretend I barely existed. But then came the bouquet toss. All the single women gathered on the dance floor. I was standing near the back, not really interested in participating but going along with tradition. Ellie stood with her back to us, bouquet in hand. She glanced over her shoulder, made direct eye contact with me, and then very deliberately threw the bouquet in the complete opposite direction. It was so petty and obvious that there was an awkward murmur from the crowd. The bouquet ended up being caught by Mark's 85-year-old grandmother, which got a good laugh and covered the awkwardness. I thought that would be the end of it, but as the night wound down, Ellie got drunker and her true feelings started showing more. She loudly told one of her friends, while standing right next to me, "God, the photographer better be able to Photoshop the wedding photos. Some people just had to make it all about them." I ignored it and kept chatting with Jen and some cousins. But then Ellie came over to our table, swaying slightly from champagne. "Having fun, Sophia? Enjoying all the attention your face is getting?" The table went silent. I took a deep breath. I'm having a lovely time celebrating your wedding, Ellie. The ceremony was beautiful. Don't patronize me, she snapped. You know what you did. You just had to make my wedding about you and your thing. She waved vaguely at my face. Ellie, Mark appeared beside her, looking mortified. Let's go say goodbye to my grandparents. They're leaving. No, I want to know why my sister hates me so much that she had to ruin my wedding photos. Her voice was getting louder, and people at nearby tables were starting to stare. I didn't ruin anything, I said quietly. I'm just existing in my own skin. Your skin is the problem, she shouted. The DJ actually stopped the music. The entire reception went silent. Mark looked like he wanted to disappear. Ellie, you're drunk, he said, trying to lead her away. Let's get some water. No. I've been nice all day, pretending it doesn't bother me, but it does. She could have covered it up for one day, but she had to make it all about her. I stood up. I think I should go. Yes, go. Go ruin someone else's special day with your selfish face. I grabbed my purse and started walking out. The silence was deafening. Then, to my surprise, Jen stood up and followed me. Then two of my cousins. Then my grandma. One by one, about 15 people got up and walked out with me in solidarity. As we reached the exit, I heard Ellie wailing dramatically. See? She's stealing my guests now, too. Outside, everyone who had walked out with me was furious on my behalf. My grandma hugged me tight and told me she was proud of me for standing my ground. Jen called her brother an idiot for not shutting Ellie down sooner. My cousin suggested we all go get a drink somewhere else, and half the group ended up at a bar down the street, still in our formal wear, doing shots and telling stories until 2 a.m. It was actually one of the best nights I'd had in years. Update, 1 week later. The fallout has been nuclear. My parents are furious with me for causing a scene at Ellie's wedding, conveniently ignoring that SHE was the one who drunkenly screamed about my face in front of 200 people. They've been blowing up my phone with guilt-tripping texts about how Ellie's special day was ruined and how I need to apologize. Ellie herself hasn't spoken to me directly, but she's been posting passive-aggressive things on social media about toxic family members and learning who really loves you on your wedding day. She also posted a few wedding photos, only ones where I'm either not visible or barely in frame, of course. Mark called me yesterday to apologize. He said he was ashamed he didn't stand up for me more during the whole ordeal, and that Ellie's behavior has made him reconsider some things. He wouldn't elaborate, but he sounded stressed. I almost feel bad for him. He's seeing a side of Ellie that he probably didn't know existed. The best thing to come from this mess? Jen and I have become actual friends. We've hung out twice since the wedding, and she's introduced me to her friend group who are all awesome and couldn't care less about my birthmark. So, I guess something good came out of this disaster after all. I've received about a dozen messages from extended family and even some of Ellie's friends who witnessed the meltdown, all saying they were appalled by how she treated me and that I handled it with grace. My favorite was from my great-aunt Mildred, who is 85 and different from Mark's grandmother, who texted, "Your sister behaved like a damn fool. Your birthmark is your crown. Wear it proudly. I am." Update, 3 months later. Life has changed a lot since the wedding. About a month after everything went down, Mark moved out of their new house. Jen told me that Ellie's bridezilla behavior didn't magically disappear after the wedding, and the way she treated me was a wake-up call for Mark about her true character. They're in counseling now, trying to work things out, but Jen says it's not looking good. Part of me feels guilty, like maybe if I had just covered my birthmark, they'd be in newlywed bliss right now. But then I remind myself that I didn't cause any of this. I just refuse to be ashamed of my face. My relationship with my parents is still strained. They've eased up on the direct blame, but there's definitely tension whenever we talk. They keep trying to get me to make peace with Ellie, but she still hasn't reached out to me directly, so I'm not sure what they expect me to do. I've started dating someone. One of Jen's friends, Alex, asked me out about a month after the wedding. On our first date, he told me he thought my birthmark was striking and unique. We've been seeing each other steadily since then, and it's going really well. Last week, I ran into Ellie at the grocery store, our first encounter since the wedding. I braced myself for drama, but she just looked tired. We made awkward small talk about the weather, and as she was about to leave, she said, "Your birthmark actually looks nice with that sweater color." Then she walked away before I could respond. I'm not sure if that was her version of an olive branch or what, but I'll take it as a positive sign. Maybe someday we'll have a real conversation about everything that happened. For now, I'm focusing on the good things. My new relationship, my friendship with Jen, and most importantly, the confidence to never hide who I am for someone else's comfort. Update, 6 months later. I didn't expect to be writing another update, but things have taken another turn. Mark and Ellie officially filed for divorce last month. Jen told me it was a long time coming, and the wedding drama was just the beginning of their issues. Apparently, Ellie wanted to start trying for a baby right away, but Mark kept putting it off, saying they needed to work on their relationship first. This led to more fights, and eventually, Mark couldn't take it anymore. My parents are devastated about the divorce, and somehow still find a way to partially blame me. Mom actually said, if the wedding had gone perfectly, maybe they would have had a better start to their marriage. I've stopped arguing with them about it. They'll believe what they want to believe. The most unexpected development came 3 weeks ago when Ellie called me out of the blue and asked if we could meet for coffee. I was hesitant but agreed. When we met, she looked different, less polished, more human. She'd lost weight, and her usual perfect makeup was minimal. We sat in awkward silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke. I've been in therapy, she said. My therapist thinks I have some control issues. I nearly choked on my coffee, trying not to laugh at the understatement. Anyway, she continued, part of my therapy is making amends. So, I'm sorry for how I treated you at the wedding, and before the wedding, and pretty much our whole lives. I was genuinely shocked. Thank you for saying that. I've always been jealous of you, she said, which floored me. Everyone always loved you more. You were the sweet one, the kind one. I was just the achiever. Nobody ever really liked me for me. That's not true, I said, though part of me wondered if it was. It is, and I think I resented your birthmark because it made you special, different, while I was just ordinary, trying so hard to be perfect because I had nothing unique about me. I didn't know what to say to that. We talked for almost 2 hours, digging into childhood stuff, our parents' favoritism, which we experienced completely differently. She thought they favored me, I thought they favored her, and how we'd grown apart. It wasn't a magical, fix-everything conversation, but it was a start. We've met for coffee twice more since then. It's still awkward, but there's less tension each time. Alex and I are still going strong. He came to a family dinner last month, the first one I've attended since the wedding, and handled the weirdness like a champ. My parents were overly polite to him. Ellie was quiet but civil, and my grandma absolutely adored him. The best part? Last week, Ellie asked if I wanted to go shopping with her, something we haven't done since we were teenagers. While trying on clothes, she pointed out a green top and said, that would look amazing with your birthmark. Not despite your birthmark, but with your birthmark. It was a small thing, but it meant everything. I don't know if Ellie and I will ever be best friends, but I think we might actually become real sisters. As for Mark, he's moved to another state for a job opportunity. Jen and I are still close, and she's assured me that her relationship with me won't change despite her brother's divorce. My great-aunt Mildred keeps asking when Alex and I are getting married. We've only been dating for 5 months, and Mildred calmed down, and my parents seem to be slowly coming around to the idea that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the villain in this story. So that's where things stand now. Life is messy and complicated and doesn't wrap up in a neat bow. But I'm happier than I've been in years, and I haven't once thought about covering my birthmark. Actually, that's not entirely true. Alex's sister is getting married next spring, and I'll be meeting his extended family for the first time. For a brief moment, I wondered if I should wear makeup to make a good impression. Then I remembered everything that happened with Ellie's wedding and thought, nope, never again. This is my face. Take it or leave it. So, Reddit, was I in the wrong for refusing to cover my birthmark and ruining my sister's wedding? I don't think so anymore, but I'm curious what you all think. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for the supportive comments. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I've tried laser treatments when I was younger. They lightened it slightly but couldn't remove it completely, and they were painful and expensive. 2. No, I don't plan to cut contact with my parents. They're flawed, but they love me in their way. 3. Alex knows about all this drama and has been incredibly supportive. 4. For those asking what a port wine stain looks like, it's basically a reddish-purple birthmark. Mine covers my right cheek, part of my forehead, and a bit of my neck. 5. And to the person who asked if I'm using my deformity for attention, it's not a deformity, and the only attention I ever wanted was to be treated like a normal human being. Thanks again, everyone. Your comments have made me feel even more confident in my decision to stand my ground.